welcome to your special edition of News at Tonga this week for this evening. Making headlines, King Dabo VI will officiate at the annual Royal Agricultural and Handicrafts Show 2013. Traditional pre-wedding festivity for the wedding of Honourable Fatafehila Pahatuita to her fiancé conducted during the week, and MA60 aircraft will soon commence its commercial flights. These and more stories later on in this bulletin. I'm Fatai Whaingaa with the details. His Majesty King Dabo VI will officiate at the annual Royal Agricultural and Handicraft Show 2013. However, the Legislative Assembly will be adjourned for 2 weeks for the member parliaments to attend this important occasion where growers and handicrafters will come together to display the fruit of their labours. Parliament will then resume its deliberations on August 19th. Sinlato reports.
The Parliament today have passed for the adjournment of the House for the next 2 weeks, beginning from August 5th to the 15th. The purpose of adjourning the House deliberations is to enable the members of the House to attend the Royal Annual Agricultural and Handicraft Show 2013. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Sami Vaipulu, highlighted during today's deliberations that His Majesty King Dabo VI will officiate at the annual event. The Deputy Prime Minister also told the House that it is important for the members of the House to join together with His Majesty at this very important occasion to show the people in the agriculture and handicrafts industry that they appreciate its contribution towards the country's development. The Royal Agricultural Show will begin in Niuatop on August the 7th, which is Wednesday of next week. It will continue on with the same show in Niuafo on Thursday, August the 8th, and followed by Vava'o Ha'apai, Ewa, and lastly to Tongatapu on August 23rd and 24th. However, also from today's deliberations, the Speaker of the House, Lord Fafanua, proposed for the Noble No. 2 representative for Vava'o, Lord Tuilakepa, to become a member of the Law Committee, where the House approved of this. However, the Honourable Prime Minister Lord Tuivakano was also welcomed back at the House after representing Tonga to strings of global meetings abroad. After this, the House changed to the Committee of the Whole House, where the members discussed the Amendment Bill for the Constitution Act of Tonga 2012. That was the fourth proposal from the Law Committee in relation to demands from public during meetings. This bulletin was recorded when Parliament still continued deliberations onto the matter. For Television Tonga News, I'm Sinilatu.
The traditional pre-wedding festivity for the wedding of Honourable Fatafehila Pahatuita to her fiancé, Sione Filipe, has been conducted on Thursday. Her Royal Highness Princess Salote Mafleo Pilolevutuita and Lord Tuita were present at the special occasion welcoming a special presentation from Sione Filipe's father's family at the royal residence of Mahina Fikite. The bride-to-be, Honourable Fatafehila Pahatuita, and her parents, Her Royal Highness Princess Pilolevutuita and Lord Tuita, welcoming the families and friends of the groom, Sione Filipe Jr. Tularomana Tuita and the rest of Honourable Fatafehi's families were also at Mahina Fikite to welcome the presentation from the groom's side. The Honourable Prime Minister Lord Tuivakano led the traditional presentation of the groom's family to the bride. Talking chief representing the groom, Ma'olangomi Fonua, spoke of the purpose of the visit. Tākapu, I'm only here because of joy and happiness, and I'm here to lend a helping hand to Her Royal Highness Princess Pilolevutuita. Although my visit is short, however, I know that you will lead ahead. Although I have my shortfalls in my presentation, but my only desire is to show Her Royal Highness my commitment and love for her. In response, the talking chief Tākapu represent Honourable Fatafehila Pahatuita and her family. Today has been long written on history, and I understood that Siafu first came to tell us of your visit, and it seemed like that it is heavy-weighted because the heroes from Fiji are also here as well. However, I will be able to stay up and check on you always while praying that the good Lord will rain blessings upon you and your family. During the pre-wedding festivity occasion, the Fijian relatives of the groom, Sione Felipe, also presented gifts. The presentation and the celebrations then continued with the traditional dances. Tongan soldiers have completed their peacekeeping mission with the Regional Assistance Mission to the Solomon Islands or Ramsey. The final troops arrived safely in the kingdom this week. The Honourable Prime Minister and Minister of Defence, Lord Duverano, was at the Whaamotu International Airport and welcomed them back home. Anasi Falekano was there and filed this report.
The Honourable Prime Minister and Minister of Defence, Lord Duverano, welcomed the Tongan troops who served their final mission with Ramsey in the Solomon Islands. Lord Duverano thanked the soldiers for representing the country and serving as ambassadors of Tonga in the peacekeeping mission. We are thankful that this troop arrived safely through the air to our country. I am really thankful due to the completion of your task. You have represented the nation of His Majesty in the country, and this is the end of the Tonga Defence Services, and I am really grateful because you have been a good ambassador in representing us in what you did. Tonga's 33-strong contingent were led to the Solomon Islands by Lieutenant Commander Hayes Fonohema. After 2 years, it is clear that it was unnecessary having soldiers serve in the Ramsey mission in the Solomon Islands. It was clear soldiers weren't needed. Many parents and family were also at the airport to welcome their loved ones back home. All hopes were in the Lord to look out for men on their mission. We're happy to see them arrive home safely and thankful to God for His help. This is the final contingent to serve under the Ramsey mission. However, Tonga police officers will continue with the peacekeeping duties in the Solomon Islands until 2017.
The Whole House Committee has approved to return to Parliament's Standing Committee on Legislation the Amendment Bill towards Tonga's Constitution Act 2012. This was based on the request from members of the Whole House Committee to carry out amendments for the bill in regards to all the proposals and sharing of ideas during the deliberations of the members of the Whole House Committee. Sinlato reports.
The amendment bill is related to Clause 8 of the Constitution, where it states that the people are granted with rights to submit any petitions to His Majesty, the King, and the Legislative Assembly. However, the current Tongan translation for Clause 8 of the Constitution is different to its English translation. In the English context, Clause 8 of the Constitution Act requires a limitation for the petitions submitted to the King and the Legislative Assembly. It only requires a petition for approval or revoke of an act. However, in the Tongan context of the Constitution, there are no limitations under Clause 8. From the deliberations, the amendment bill suggests to make amendments to the Tongan translation of Clause 8 of the Constitution as the same as the English translation. If they approve for the amendment towards Clause 8 of the Constitution, the only petitions be allowed to be submitted to His Majesty and Parliament are the petitions which only suggest that any act shall be approved or revoked in the House. Also, public were allowed to discuss this amendment bill during public consultations, and no public gathering approved of the amendment bill. Meanwhile, the Honourable Police Minister suggested returning this matter to the Standing Committee on Legislation to make the amendments that suit all the issues raised by members of the whole committee of the House. It also includes the proposition from the Honourable Education and Training Minister to use the Tongan translation and make the amendments because since the Constitution was established, the Tongan people have always used the Tongan version of the Constitution. However, after putting up a ballot in the House, all members of the Whole House Committee approved to return to the Standing Committee on Legislation to make the amendments based on the proposals and advice from the members of the House. This morning's deliberations continued on to the second report for 2013 from the Standing Committee on Legislation, which relates to adjustments being made to Parliament's standing order. All members of the Whole House Committee were in favour of this. The discussions continued to the Amendment Bill for Food 2011. This amendment bill relates to food security issues, which also includes exports and imports of food from the country. Parliamentarians continued deliberations on the issue regarding Amendment Bill for Food 2011 until they deferred for lunch break.
Tonga's diplomatic and economic relationship with China came under discussions in the parliamentary discussions. The Honourable Prime Minister reported to the House on his recent meeting with his Chinese counterpart during his official visit to China. Caroline Tonglava has the details.
The Honourable Prime Minister Lord Duivano met with the Chinese Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Commerce and the Foreign Minister of China, as well as other high officials in the government. Speaking in Parliament, he said it was clear from the string of meetings that he attended that it is vital to strengthen the diplomatic and economic ties between the two countries. The second aspect is to preserve the current peaceful relations of both government and also to develop the economic activities that both countries are planning. Lord Duivano added that other issues raised during his visit to China includes the assistance funds provided for Tonga through the government, where such funds cover various projects that have started or are yet to begin. While in China, the Prime Minister also attended a global meeting as a result of the recognition of Tonga as a leading Pacific country which strives to boost its renewable energy sector. This is under Tonga Energy Roadmap or TERM project. The global meeting focused on the climate change issues in which they reviewed Tonga's situation. Also in the economic theory of green economy, the focus is mainly in line with economic of a nation depending on the green land. In the global meeting, the Honourable Prime Minister proposed the idea of blue economy, which relates to Tonga's livelihoods. The Prime Minister told the gathering that for Tonga and the rest of its neighbouring countries, their basic form of income is from the ocean. Lord Duivano also told the House that his proposed idea was praised by the delegation and also it was highlighted through numerous news agencies in China. The Honourable Prime Minister also told the members of the House that once the outcome and results of the meeting that he took part in is finalized, then he will submit it to Parliament.
Honourable Salote Mamautai Tukaho and her younger brother, Honourable Etani Tukaho, we participated in a special program for youth to educate them on the importance of furthering their studies. The program was held at Kolomotua, where it was facilitated by Dr. Caroline Solano of the United States of America. Anastiu Falecano with more.
I rise up this morning, smile at the rising sun. 3 little birds around my doorstep.
Honourable Etani Tukuaho performing a song during the program where students are educated on values of furthering their studies. Facilitating the special program is an expert from the United States, Dr. Caroline Solano. When speaking to Radio and Television Tonga News, Honourable Salote Maumau Taimi stated that since joining the program, it has made her aware of many wider opportunities available for her.
It has opened my eyes that there is a bigger world out there, and I'm a better person after just 3 days, and it's taught me that there are many opportunities out there, and school is important if you want a better future, and that is all. Stay in school.
In addition, Honourable Etani agreed and stated that this is an opportunity to be taught on leadership roles and how to make wise decisions in the future.
That give us this opportunity that's very hard to get. So, it influenced us a lot to be better leaders for the future, and I think that's what helps us in what we do.
Dr. Solano told Radio and Television Tonga News that the reason why they chose Tonga for this project because of the many educational opportunities available for students.
We started out with their mission, what they want to do. We started out with values. We did a Myers-Briggs because that's personal-centered leadership. We talked about leadership. We played a lot of games, but the games all had a purpose. They were team games to bring everyone together and get to know each other and to have fun.
Senior students from Tonga High School are also taking part in the program. This program is funded by a visiting group from America who are providing advice for the participants. The working committee includes Dr. Laminia Fangupo, Dr. Carolyn Salerno, Dr. Afa Ju, Joanna Kohele, Rachel Salerno, and Jack Bolido.
The MA60 aircraft, which is a gift from China to Tonga, will soon commence its commercial flights. The Honorable Deputy Prime Minister Sami Waipulo says they're just waiting to complete paperwork on the aircraft and its liabilities insurance. He revealed this before going on board the aircraft for its second test flight to Vava'u on Thursday morning. The Honorable Deputy Prime Minister Sami Waipulo says the Real Tonga Airline will confirm the schedule for the MA60 domestic flights once it's cleared to operate. However, the MA60 made its commercial test flight to Vava'u. This is the MA60's second test flight to Vava'u. After this, we will then continue to sign off the lease agreement between the government and Real Tonga Airline, which will manage and operate the MA60. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister says with the lease agreement they will then decide on a price or cost to be paid by Real Tonga to lease the plane. This new development will help promote cheaper airfares for domestic flights. In the meantime, Real Tonga's commercial manager says there's a small amount of work to be finished before they resume their operation.
We don't have a confirmed date for the start of commercial operations for the MA60. The airline is still finalising, from our end, the certification requirements that we need to do as an airline to operate an aircraft.
When the MA60 commences its domestic operation, the government will then continue talks towards China's Y12F aircraft to be presented to Tonga later. For Television Tonga News, I'm Fatai Whaingaa. 200 growers in Vava'u are working on improving the vanilla plantations on the island. The statement was made by the Honourable Minister of Commerce, Tourism and Labour, who's also the People's Representative for Vava'u Constituency number 14, Dr. William Latu, during the parliamentary deliberations. Kalolaini Tonglava takes up that story.
The Commerce, Tourism and Labour Minister Dr. William Latu says local farmers in Vava'u are working together with an overseas company called The Queen. This company is funding their work. Dr. Latu says an estimated amount of 100,000 ba'anga is being used for the recovery project to improve the sector, which used to be a major form of income for the people of Vava'u. The project also covers funding for vanilla plantations, construction fences around plantations, and looking after the vanilla farms. Dr. Latu told the House that a majority of the growers taking part in this initiative are residents from the districts of Vava'u 14 and 16. In addition, he says the drive is to restore this industry to be the main form of income for the island, as vanilla plantations and growing of tonga and kava are the only major source of income for the island. The Labour Minister assured the House that the Queen Company is a reliable one, and there is an agreement between the company and the local farmers. At the same time, the Ministries of Justice and Agriculture are reviewing the content of the agreement, he said. On this note, the People's Representative for Tonga Tapu 1, Akilis Pohiva, asked for government to thoroughly review agreements between Tonga and foreign companies in order to avoid the abuse and manipulation of the local people. The Honourable Prime Minister Lord Tuivano supported the stance, saying although Vava'u has its own agricultural council, such agreements still need to be reviewed. The Labour Minister agreed with the feedback and said the aim of the project is to ensure the profits made stays in Tonga. The deliberations of Parliament continued on to other issues before converting to the discussions of the Whole House Committee, where they continued deliberations on the Food Bill 2011. Reporting for Television Tonga News, I'm Kalolaini Tonglava.
Parliament has passed the Food Bill 2013 this week. This is after members of Parliament discussed the Food Bill, which was first submitted to the Office of the Speaker of Parliament in 2011. Kalolaini Tonglava reports.
The bill was known as the Food Bill and was passed down to the Committee of the Whole House. There were amendments and adjustments carried out towards the bill in 2011 and 2012 and up to this year. The Legislative Assembly decided to call it a bill and may be known as the Food Bill 2013 after making the amendments suggested by the Parliament's Standing Committee on Legislation. Meanwhile, during the deliberations of the members of the House regarding the bill, the Honourable Minister of Agriculture, Food, Forestry and Fisheries, Sengsta Saulala, stated that the aim of the bill is to protect the public from purchasing of local food items and also to monitor and manage the export of agriculture. The Honourable Agriculture Minister added that the vital aspect of passing the food bill is that Tonga will be recognized as members of the worldwide organizations such as the World Trade Organization WTO, Food and Agriculture Organization or FAO. The Agricultural Minister also stated to the members of the House that his ministry wants to work closely with Parliament's Agriculture and Fisheries Council in order to create a more meaningful future plan for the country. Also, during yesterday's deliberations, the People's Representative for Tonga Tapu 1, Achilles Pohiva, raised his concern over the usage of chemicals in local vegetable plantations. Mr. Pohiva also suggested the Ministry of Agriculture to conduct more awareness program for the public both on radio and television Tonga in order to educate local growers that using of chemicals in their farms are very risky. The number one People's Representative also told the House that a good example of this is the chemical used on the taro leaves, which are commonly consumed by the people. In addition, the People's Representative for Tonga Tapu 5, Isaac Eke, agreed with the stance from the People's Representative of Tonga Tapu 1. Mr. Eke told the House it would be easy for the staff of both Ministries of Agriculture and Health to go directly to the growers selling their produce in local markets and conduct a food chemical test for any chemicals which may be present on the produce. Meanwhile, the Honourable Agricultural Minister responded to all these suggestions that it will be taken into considerations. He also added that at present the Ministry of Agriculture is striving to push for all organic farms in Tonga. The Food Bill 2013 was passed yesterday afternoon during the deliberations of the Committee of the Whole House.
Tonga Power Limited says it is unfortunate that the Parliament's deliberation this week discusses the 30 pa'anga disconnection fees implied by the company to those who wish to connect their electricity supplies if being disconnected. Parliament's deliberations discussed the Tonga Power Limited disconnection fees as part of their agenda, saying that some of the local electricity consumers cannot afford this amount. However, the treasurer of the Tonga Power Limited, Stephen Esau, in an interview with Radio and Television Tonga News, says they're not on the same track with the parliamentarian that raised the issue. It is important that public are made aware that the fees implied by the company is not from their own will, but from the regulator's calculation of the adequate fees suit the company's expenses on full. However, the total fees calculated must meet their operations and the workers' demands. MPs also inquire the total amount of 360,000 pa'anga collected by the company is a total of their disconnection fees per annum, but Mr. Esau says their daily operations exceeds that total amount of money. The money collected from the disconnection fees helps prepare the list of those that the electricity bills are overdue. It also includes supplying of safety keys for the workers and other needs. Mr. Esau says the public are only facing problems with their bills due to misuse of the electricity supplies. Delaying in paying of bills is another issue that contributes to the problems. If the consumer manages to pay their bills in the right time, they will never face any problems in future. Other issue that we should take into consideration is that why does the people of Hapai manage to pay their bills in the right time while many of them are unemployed and many of us here in Tonga Tapu cannot? In the meantime, Radio and Television Tonga News took out to the customers to get their view over the issue, where some of them say that the current disconnection fees are too expensive. However, one consumer says that the disconnection fees should be in place to help the company's operation, but they must ensure that it is affordable to everyone. Television Tonga News understood that they last month disseminated a news item on the same company, Tonga Power Limited, while presenting its 500,000 dividend to the government. There are no extra fees imposed by Tonga Water Board on people's water bills, except for the rental fees, which are the only extra fees imposed for households that the board distributes its water supply. Some of the public have raised concerns in regards to the water bills, with some residents claiming that the rates are too high. We'll join Linda Filiai with more on that story.
The Chief Executive Officer of Tonga Water Board, Simon Helu, has reaffirmed that the only fees imposed are the rental fees. Collecting of the 5 ba'anga monthly rental fees aim at the funding of the maintenance work applied for the water meters, which are distributed freely to household. This is because of the meters that we have distributed to the household, they are free of charge, which is why we are charging the public with a rental fees for them to pay us the fee for the maintenance or changing of water meters if it is broken. We also want to recover the cost. Meanwhile, Radio and Television Tonga News understands that some of the public have raised concern during the recent parliamentary meeting that the water bills are expensive and that many fees are also imposed on the public. However, Mr. Helu added it has been 6 consecutive years since the water board has raised the rate for the usage of water supply. The rental fees is only 5 ba'anga monthly fee for household. So far, a year rental fee costs 60 ba'anga compared to 300 New Zealand dollar water meters. It has been 6 years since we have increased the tariff rates for the usage of water, although the other factor prices have increased. The CEO of Tonga Water Board also stressed the rates that they are charging are not affected, although electricity and oil are the 2 most important factors for pumping of underground water. Tonga Water Board only supplies and distributes water for homes in the capital areas, including Nuku'alofa, Pangai, Neyafu, and all the villages of Ewa except for Houma. For Television Tonga News, I'm Linda Filiai.
Related stakeholders are trying to address the problem of the ongoing paroles and violence between schools, which affect most of the youths. A meeting was held at the Longolongo Police Station this week for representatives of the Ministry of Police and related stakeholders on a purpose of discussing a solution to put an end to the social concern. The meeting was officially opened by the Honourable Minister of Police, Prisons and Fire Services, Susi Fatotafaiwa. Linda Flier was there and filed this report.
The participants from related stakeholders taking part in a special meeting aiming at sharing ideas on solutions to combat the escalating school violence. Some of the measures raised in the meetings include providing of opportunity for students, parents and police to have an open dialogue program. In a speech from the Police Commissioner Grant Ofi, he says violence in school is not just a problem faced by the people of Tonga, but it is a global concern.
Well, the objective I'd like to come out of it was if we could set up a small working group from this gathering that could look at the issues and the work that was done in 2008 and hopefully get some real concrete action that we can put in place for to prevent these sorts of things happening again.
The Police Commissioner added that student prefects from various schools together with police officer will conduct a special patrolling program in town as part of the measures to address the social problems.
What we're going to talk about is how to involve the students and actually talk to the students about what's causing these things to happen, because of all the work that's been done. I don't know that there's been too much work actually done with the students themselves. So I would like to see that as one of the outcomes.
The meeting was prompted after more than 100 students allegedly attacked a residential home in Tofoa. For Television Tonga News, I'm Linda Filiai.
And that's wrap up your Tonga This Week edition for tonight. Thanking you all for joining us, but do join us again same time next week. I'm Fatai Whainga. Have a pleasant week.